Hi guys, welcome to my Share Me the Data assignment. I'm doing it on the misconceptions of the 5-second rule. So we've heard this common myth that you can drop your food and for 5 seconds after you drop it, it's still, quote, safe to eat. And I know we've all done this, but that might not be the most truthful thing. I found a study done by Dawson, Hahn, Cox, Black, and Simmons that looks into just that. This study was performed at Clemson University in October of 2006. Researchers conducted 3 experiments to determine the survival and transfer rate of salmonella from wood, tile, or carpet to bologna and bread. There were several controls for the experiment, such as temperature, humidity, and location. All the experiments were performed at 21 degrees Celsius in a temperature control room and at 50% humidity using a humidity-controlled chamber. All of the experiments were performed at Clemson University Laboratory. The first experiment was conducted for 28 days. The researchers studied how long salmonella would remain on the 3 surfaces, and they found that they remained on tile for 4 weeks. Salmonella can survive up to 4 weeks on dry surfaces in high enough populations to be transferred to food. This includes the wood and the carpet surfaces. So now that we know how long salmonella can survive on a surface, how fast does salmonella infect food once it touches the ground? To find out this information, we will now look at experiment number 2. Experiment 2 had the same controls as experiment 1, including temperature, humidity, and location. However, there was the additional precaution of sterilization of the surfaces. All the surfaces were alloclaved to sterilize the surface and then handled aseptically prior to inoculation. 1 milliliter of the salmonella solution was evenly dispersed over each surface. Each surface was 10 by 10 centimeters in dimension. Each sample was given 5 minutes to dry, and then the food items, the bologna in the case of experiment 2, were placed on each surface, timed, and analyzed for the amount of bacteria transferred. The third experiment was conducted with the exact same procedure and controls as experiment 2, except this time with the other food item, the bread. Researchers performed the same salmonella dispersion and analyzed the bread bacteria transfer in the same fashion as the bologna bacteria experiment. This is the equation used to find the percent bacteria transfer in both experiments 2 and 3. So what did the researchers find from the data collected from experiments 2 and 3? Get ready because these results might surprise you. Salmonella can be transferred to the foods tested almost immediately on contact. So now let's break down each surface and how long salmonella takes to infect the food. On the tile, over 99% of bacterial cells were transferred to the bologna after 5 seconds of exposure. Salmonella exposure on the wood was a little less than on the tile, at 68% transfer. Bacterial transfer from the carpet to the bologna was actually very low, at about 5% when compared to the other surfaces. So now that we have all this data, what does it all mean? Our first conclusion is that salmonella can survive up to 4 weeks on dry surfaces in high enough populations to be transferred to the foods tested. Our second conclusion is that salmonella can be transferred to foods almost immediately on contact. So what is the significance of this study and all the conclusions that we came up with? This study showed the ability of bacteria to survive and cross-contaminate other foods even after long periods of time on dry surfaces, thus reinforcing the importance of sanitation on food contact to minimize the risk of foodborne illnesses. So how can the information we learned from the 3 experiments performed be applied to our understanding of the 5-second rule? Well, now that we know how quickly bacteria can transfer onto food when it falls on tile or wood, we know that there is no such thing as a 5-second safety rule in these situations. But in the case of dry food, such as bread, falling onto a surface like carpet, bacteria is transferred at a much lesser rate. However, it is still important to use your judgments and take precautions for your own health in these situations. So the next time you're eating and you drop your food, stop And think about this experiment, because now you know all about bacterial transfer and how fast it takes for bacteria to infect your food.